Okay, we are back. Welcome to Dynasty Saturday Night 5, live here on Saturday night once again. We took a few weeks off, bit of a hiatus, fantasy playoffs, so not too much going on, but also, end of the year, people are busy and, sort of a wellness break, mental and physical health and grab some rest. And we're back here as the NFL playoffs are getting started to kind of put a bow on the 2022 season and kind of give you a preview of what we're going to be doing in the off season. I'm Brian Ford. I'm here with my co-host Josh Walker. Josh, how you doing?
Good. It's funny how Dynasty works. I told myself a few weeks ago, no more leagues I got to cut down, and I'm already drafting a new team. So yeah, I got a problem. But I'm good. I'm happy to be here after a good break.
Yeah, I mean, that's a common refrain from the Dynasty folks. Like, I said I wouldn't, but here I am with more leagues. Yeah. Last year, I said 0 startups in the offseason, and I lasted till like maybe late July. And then all of a sudden, boom, like 4 or 5 more startups. But I did a really good job cutting back at the end of this season, going into next year. So I should be okay. Yeah, I actually stuck to my. But again, a whole new offseason to go back on my word and add more teams. So
yeah, I think at this point I'm just going to be taking over orphans until around July. So.
Okay, our buddy Kyle checking in. Hey, Kyle, how's it going? Good to see you. Thanks for being with us. So, for those of you who don't know or forget, Dynasty Saturday Night 5, just a fun, sort of laid back way to talk about Dynasty through lists of 5. And so, make sure that you're tuning in every Saturday night. You're getting the notifications. You're subscribing to the Going for Two Live YouTube channel, and of course, hang out with us in the chat. So as you may see from the title of the video, this is the Dyno Awards, the much anticipated award show at the end of this season with a Dynasty twist. And I honestly, I was this close to buying one of those tuxedo T-shirts so that I could have like an award show tuxedo thing going on. Maybe next year. Maybe if it becomes a tradition, we'll get the vibe going a little differently.
I'm down. We can make it. I don't know if you watch The Office. We can make it kind of like the Dundies, where we just give away some cheap trophies, or we can just keep them. I don't know.
Yeah. Hottest redhead or something like that.
Yeah, whitest shoes.
Stinkiest dumps. All right. So the Dynos. We're gonna have 5 categories, which links in with our whole spiel here about lists of 5, and we each have some nominees, an honorable mention, and a winner. So it's kind of like 10 awards, So we'll cheat a little bit, right? And Jamie commiserating, no more startups, but Sir Foss got him into one, which
Brian's
that's the way it goes sometimes. Yeah. I cut out a bunch of leagues, partly to cut down on leagues, but also in anticipation of I want to add a couple more leagues, but like with people I know, and I know they know what they're doing. You know what I mean? Mm. I had a lot of jabroni leagues, and I was just like, that's a whole other story. Okay, so our first category in the Dyno Awards is biggest riser or pleasant surprise. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll start this one off. So I'll start out with my first nominee, Ramondre Stevenson. You reached 1,000 yards in what was supposed to be an ugly backfield. He cemented himself easily as a lead back, mainly due to he's actually able to catch passes. And he averaged 5 yards a carry, which is pretty good. Showed great missed tackle ability. So next up, another running back. Next nominee is Tyler Algier. I was higher than consensus on him, but even I didn't expect him to reach 1,000 yards. I was hoping for 600, in a committee, because they were in a committee even when Patterson got hurt. Caleb Huntley, who we'll talk about later, got called up, got a lot of carries. He showed pretty good vision, decent big playability. And I think he's earned the chance next year to either be the guy or if they want to stick in a committee to be 1A. And he showed this year he can at least be valuable. Next nominees, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's top 10 in targets and receptions, reached 1,000 yards this year. And I think he proved he's going to be the main target guy, even with Jameson Williams. He's going to be more of a big play threat, trickery a little. So I think he's still going to be a top 15 Dynasty wide receiver. Next nominee, Garrett Wilson, elite route runner. I didn't realize how good he was in yards after the catch. He's second to only Debo when he's in open space. And he reached 1,100 yards with Joe Flacco, Mike White, and Zach Wilson. So that's enough right there. And then Christian Watson's the last one. I faded him coming into the season, but he proved after a slow start he does have the ability to be a very valuable fantasy option. Probably some touchdown regression based on how many he had and with the little receptions, but he does have upside. So that leaves it to my honorable mention, Rashid Shaheed with the Saints. He only had like 28 receptions, almost got 500 yards, and had a few touchdowns. I think that big playability, he can play well, maybe like a Robbie Anderson type. So the winner, and probably one of my new favorite fantasy players, is Garrett Wilson. The dude is just elite. I think he showed why he's going to be – he made Elijah Moore worthless just about at this point. I'm kidding. He's not worthless. But I think he just came, busted through, and did much better than anybody expected to. So
I like those. Yeah, I share a couple of your nominees, and yeah, I also like the Shaheed call. He could step into wide receiver 2 or 3 on that team. I mean, obviously, the quarterback play is what it is, but certainly, relative to what we expected of him, Weber State, I believe, the college, right? A UDFA from Weber State. I don't know that anybody thought he'd be making any noise. So
even at 24, he's a little older than most rookies, but I don't really care at this point.
So there were 2 guys going into this season who I was lower than consensus on, and I said prove it. And those are my first 2 nominees: Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts started in my quarterback rankings as we entered the season at I think like 15 or 16. My whole thing with him is you got to pass to stay on the field to make the cheat code work, and I was skeptical, and so. He definitely was a riser and a surprise for me. Dameon Pierce, a guy who I had, maybe 10th among the rookie running backs coming into the draft last year, and didn't really raise him much, even though he did get a good landing spot with the Texans for volume. I just didn't like the player much. Broken tackle machine. He's still a day 3 running back with a new coaching staff coming in, and I think they'll add somebody in the backfield that's more of a change of pace or a receiving back. But for the purposes of this award and his value going forward, he's definitely earned the idea of being a riser and a pleasant surprise. Jared Goff, I like going into this season. I'm not saying I love Jared Goff. I'm not gonna lie, right? But I thought he was getting way too much hate, and like he's competent, he's mediocre, he's fine, whatever. And the Detroit offense this year is really good, right? And yeah, sure. Are they much better at home than on the road? Is he much better at home than on the road? Sure. Is a lot of it because a negative game script and a bad defense? Sure, but we don't care too much about that. We care mainly about the end result and the numbers he's putting up, and he's definitely risen up the board, and he's only like 28-ish, so still he performed so well. People went from Detroit's definitely taking a quarterback if they can to Detroit's not taking a quarterback at all. So definitely, and then of course Ramondre. I had him in there. He's not as big a surprise to me as he is to some other folks. I've been a fan since the pre-draft process. But relative to where I had him in the rankings, to where he is now, definitely a riser and a surprise. My honorable mention is Chig Okonkwo. I had him about, I think, 9th or 10th in my tight end rankings going into the draft, the 2022 class. I was too low on him. I had a couple guys like Ruckert and Kolar ahead of him, and they're nowhere to be seen at the moment. I still think Ruckert is worth waiting on, but yeah, Chig definitely a pleasant surprise as my honorable mention. And the winner, Jalen Hurts. Kind of hard not to make Jalen Hurts the winner. He's by most people's accounts, a top 5 dynasty quarterback now, including mine. So this is also the Eat Crow Award, because I was wrong. I was wrong on Hurts. I didn't think he could take this big a step forward as a passer this soon, and he has. And so he is the winner for my biggest riser / pleasant surprise. And our next category, folks, is kind of going in the opposite direction, and that's the biggest faller or disappointment. Josh, kick us off.
Yeah, I do want to ask you one question about golf.
Sure.
Just since
I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good. I didn't plan on adding anything, but as you were going, I draft all right. What round would you take Jared Goff in the startup in Superflex? Because I drafted him round 6 as my QB2. I felt like it based on ADP on Sleeper, it was reaching, but I also am buying in because he also had a very good. It was either rookie or sophomore year where he put up a lot of points with McVay.
For Goff, for me, it sounds a little high, like maybe 8th, 9th, I'd say. In that Cousins range. But
yeah, Cousins went 1 pick before that. That's who I was. He went in round 6 too. Okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I reached a lot, but at the same time, I didn't want to get stuck without a decent second quarterback.
Startups have a lot of moving parts, and in a Superflex, you want to get that second quarterback. And especially if you're not like 100% a value drafter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, let's face it, a lot of dynasty players are not 100% value drafters, right? They're drafting as if they're going to like use that team moving forward, right?
Yeah.
And so that colors the strategy of trying to get that second, that second quarterback early. Let's see here, and Jamie with good results with Goff as his Superflex, winning a championship. Congrats! There you go. The arm of Jared awesome. Goff, who I was told in the Hard Knocks didn't know that the sun set in the west or something, or was that him? Goff. Anyway,
I'm not sure.
I have to Google it.
We'll look at his Wonderlic score and see.
That could probably tell you, right? Yeah. All right. So this is the Wah Wah Award for biggest faller or disappointment. The nominees are Josh.
Mark, starting off, one of my favorite players coming into this year. He helped me a lot last year, not so much this year. Mark Andrews. And this isn't a knock on him as a player. I think he was playing hurt. But even though he's out there, you cannot not play him because if you do, he's going to go off and you're going to look stupid. But from week 13 until week 16, so right when you're really trying to get some wins to get in the playoffs, he did not score above 10 PPR points. And even then, his good games were scattered with games of 3.5, 0.4 points, 6 points. And he had 500 less yards than last year, less touchdowns. So he's obviously was a disappointment. Second one, Sky Moore. I wasn't really that in, especially when he landed on the Chiefs. I felt like there were just too many people ahead of him. I thought he still had some development. But based on his ADP, I still had him ranked pretty high. I dropped him considerably, which I will talk about a little bit later. Next one, Russell Wilson. I could have put the whole Broncos offense on this, but I just kept it to Russell. There's a lot at the end of the tunnel that now that Hackett's gone, he actually looked like his old self in the last game or two. But even then, he was not good at all this year. He probably hurt a lot of people more than he helped. Next one, Elijah Moore, my fantasy darling coming into the season, my most rostered player on all of my sleeper leagues. I haven't dropped him in anything, but I did not play him after week 3 or 4, and he's been on my bench. And the last one, Jonathan Taylor. I had a league where I drafted Travis Kelce, Jonathan Taylor, and Jalen Hurts, and I finished second to last. So he let a lot of people down. Not all his fault. A lot of it was injury, offensive line, and just overall bad offense. And my honorable mention, I went with another Bronco, Albert O. I had him, I think, 13th or 14th out of tight ends coming into the year in Dynasty. He's down in the mid-20s. Dulcich beat him out pretty easily. And the winner, Elijah Moore. Like I said, I planted my flag on him this year, and he was by far my biggest miss. And I'm still holding, though, and I'm still hopeful that will return to a wide receiver 2 or 3 moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely got the talent, and
Yeah.
they get some improved quarterback play and overall offense, and who knows?
Yeah.
But those are some good guys. I don't know that I would ding Andrews and JT as bad to put them in this category, but certainly relative to JT's expectations and relative to when Mark Andrews didn't put up the points, that those are good calls. Also, like when it comes to I don't know, looking ahead, right? I'm not saying I'm out on Lamar, but he's somebody that I'm cautious on and probably not drafting as high in startups as some other people are. And also looking ahead, question for you, Russell Wilson. Is he a buy? Is he like a contender buy low at this point?
I think so. I think just because he did show glimpses at the skill were there, I think the whole Broncos team was just in a really bad spot with Hackett. I don't want to blame it all on him, but it did seem to happen when he got there, and it didn't get better. And they looked actually pretty good when he was gone with their interim head coach. So I think he's got maybe 1-2 years left. So if you're trying to win now, he's definitely a buy low, but that's only if you're trying to win. Okay. And you really need help at the quarterback.
Okay. All right. Great job. Time for my nominees for biggest faller or disappointment. The nominees are for worst performance as a New York quarterback, Zach Wilson. I hated him in the draft process. And like there's still a little bit of Jets fandom left in me here and there sometimes, like a tiny scoop. and I was so angry when they drafted him, right? And I thought he was, quarterback 4 in that class at best, and like distantly behind, Fields, Lawrence, and Lance. But, and then, second half of last year, he looked like he could be, a disappointment, but, sort of a competent, mediocre, quarterback 2-3 in your super flex, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, he's got a chance to be whatever, a starter, a guy, but not anything special. And then, just this year, it's just been really just absolutely terrible. And, not that anybody had huge expectations for him, but, you're talking about a number 2 overall pick, right? And now basically his career as a relevant, quarterback is in question. I think some people feel like he kind of needed a timeout, and he'll bounce back at some point with some growth, but certainly a disappointment. Jalen Tolbert is another nominee for the where are you? Well, no, for the biggest disappointment. A lot of people, myself included, had him in their top 8 to 12 wide receivers in the 2022 class. The thing was, for me, he went to a small school, so he's going to need some coach up, right? Like he's going to need to refine his route running. He's got some concentration drops, but there's a lot of skills there, and he's got a chance to step in with Gallup injured. It didn't happen. He was a healthy scratch. He had 2 catches for 12 yards, I think, on the season. So, complete bust in the first year. Kareem Hunt, they didn't trade him. And so my thought was, okay, they're going to use the heck out of him while they have him, and then let him leave as a free agent. And, not only was he not great with his touches, he just wasn't getting a lot of touches. Yeah. And so I think, relative to where he was in my rankings at the beginning of the season and where he is now, so he's certainly a faller. This is also an eat crow moment for me on Brevin Jordan. I was the conductor of the Brevin Jordan hype train. Even had him as high as Dynasty wide receiver 12 at one point early in the offseason. I wasn't huge on Mills. I thought he was better than people thought. I wasn't huge on the Texans, right? But, the idea was, we saw flashes, we saw chemistry, we saw improvement from Nico, Mills, and Jordan at the end of last year. And, I thought that would continue. I'm not going to put it all on Lovie Smith, but I am interested in what we see and with the new regime, Mills not being in that mix because they're probably taking a quarterback, but yeah, I'd have to put him on that list just relative to where I was hyping him. I have to be honest, Elijah Moore I also share as a nominee. This is a person who, take it for what it is, but DK and AJ Brown say is better than they are, and here we are, trade demand, doghouse, Zach Wilson, not even knowing he exists, right? And we don't know what's going on with him moving forward. I mean, buy low candidate probably. I might have him a little higher than some other people do. I think I still have him at like 32 maybe or something like that off the top of my head. But yeah, he's definitely been a disappointment. My honorable mention is DeAndre Swift. I put him here because I'm a Swifter, right? I'm a Swift truther. I have Elijah Moore at 38. So Swift, it was basically my Dynasty RB2 up until like a few weeks ago. I kind of like,
Yep.
I don't know if it was take locky or whatever, but, the talent is there. I will be very interested to see what happens with Jamal Williams in free agency. He seems to be like one of the main leaders in the cult of Dan Campbell. Like when they're handing out the bite the kneecap Kool-Aid, he's the guy with the ladle spooning it out for everybody.
Yeah.
So, I don't expect him to not be on the Lions. I don't expect him to have, the year that he had, though. I think he benefited a lot from people getting tackled at the 2-yard line, and he just, the next play was right. But definitely he capped Swift's ceiling. They don't really seem to be using Swift the right way. So I put him here because I have to be honest because I'm a Swifter, but I only have him at honorable mention because I didn't knock him down too far. I still think there's a lot of upside there with Swift and am hopeful for sure. So the winner of biggest disappointment or biggest faller is Jalen Tolbert. Congratulations. Jalen is not in the audience tonight. I will accept on his behalf. He worked really hard to play in almost 0 games, and that is why he is my winner for biggest disappointment.
Hey, I'm still buying in long term. I drafted in the 21st round, so I think at that point I'm not really losing much. So yeah. I think there's still, And I did see something about Jamal Williams. I can't remember the exact number, but it was close to 10, if not over 10 1-yard touchdown runs he had. So it's like, I had him on my teams. I'm happy with it, but at the same time, do not expect that moving forward.
That's a guy who, if you didn't get him off your roster in the late in this season because cough contenders are stupid and don't make good trades, cough. That he's somebody you want to move probably pretty soon this offseason, especially with the risk of him signing somewhere else and there being some uncertainty there because we know the Lions love him, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, and even though he's gotten better, he's matured a little. Look at what it was in Green Bay. I mean, he had his good games every now and then, but it still wasn't, All right.
So just real quick here, Kyle commiserating with me. Watching Swift, I mean, it's maddening to me because he's so good. He's so dynamic, and I just give him the damn ball.
Yeah.
All right. So the next category is a guy I'll have a lot of in 2023. Take it away, Josh.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off with one of my favorite fantasy players. I don't really know why, but it's J.K. Dobbins. Even this year when he's not 100% healthy, he's not like in pain, but he's even admitted he's not 100%, still getting strength in his knee after the surgery. And even then, he's still, I think since week 13 or 12, he's leading the league in yards per carry. He looks pretty explosive, at least agile, shifty, missing tackles, but I think he's still got some top side speed coming next year when he's fully healthy. Even if they don't have Lamar, they're still going to run the ball a lot. So I'm going to be having a lot of him. Deontay Johnson, I'm not buying into everyone saying he's washed. He's not good. He's demanded massive target shares over the past 3 or 4 years. I don't think that's going to change. I think Kenny Pickett was just – I think he had a better connection with George Pickens, but I think that'll change over the season or over the offseason. Next one might be a little surprising, Jerry Jeudy. I never thought I'd say this, but I did see glimpses this year that show he is, in my opinion, much better and much – more fantasy useful at this point than Cortland Sutton. That might be unpopular, but I definitely like Jerry Jeudy. I think he's a lot faster, better route runner, and just better for what Russell Wilson's looking for.
I can dig it.
Yep. Then Khalil Herbert. This is just me honestly banking on Montgomery going somewhere else and the Bears making him the lead guy. I think he's a better back at this point in their careers. I think he's got much better big play potential. I think that'll go well with Justin Fields. And the last one, Daniel Jones. I tried really hard to get him in the last startup. He's only 25 years old. I think he's shown that in big games, he doesn't really fold. He's got good rushing upside that's kind of sneaky. He'll get some rushing touchdowns. And they don't even have the best weapons to throw to right now, but he's still doing pretty good. So if they can get some receivers, I think he'll be even better. My honorable mention is a buy low, Brees Hall. I know Kyle mentioned it earlier in the comments, Brees being an RB1. I have him as my RB1 or 2 moving forward in Dynasty. And I've traded for him a few times. I traded him for Nick Chubb in a piece. So I think if you're not trying to win now, or maybe even in 2023, I think he's a great piece to go get for the future. And the winner, J.K. Dobbins. I love him. I loved him coming into the year, though I was very hesitant because of the injuries. But I will probably be a little overweight J.K. Dobbins next year.
All right. So I like all those guys on that list. Dobbins is interesting, right? Because we have at least a set of data now that tells us that the second year after the ACL is the better year. And so he and Gallup, right, are going to be second year after ACL guys next year. So people to keep an eye on.
Yep.
Yeah. As far as Khalil Herbert goes, I like that call. I don't expect Montgomery back. I also don't know how much they think of him as a 1 or a 1A, to the extent that anyone is anymore in the NFL. And Treston Ebner can catch passes pretty well, but he also isn't a big draft capital investment. He was a 6th-round pick.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be shocked if in the 4th, 5th round or something, the Bears take a quarterback that caps Khalil Herbert's ceiling. But for now, I love the way he runs and definitely have him on a few rosters. So your winner, J.K. Dobbins, is also one of my nominees for pretty much the same reasons. The Ravens do like to rotate several backs, but Dobbins will be the lead in that mix, and I think the arrow is up, as you said. The late season performance pointed that way. Devonta Smith is my next nominee. He was almost in the mix for me for riser, and he benefited from Goddard being out, and then with Goddard back, he's which is a small sample size, he's still getting targets. He could very well be the 2 in that passing offense now, and not Goddard, as far as the second overall option on the tree. Goddard does block well, which keeps him from running as many routes as maybe we'd like to see. Also it depends kind of where they are on the field or what the defensive matchup is and that sort of thing. But I already have a few shares. I'm going to try to get a couple more because now's the time where veterans, to the extent that he's a veteran, but players not scoring points, their value starts to go down and they become cheaper. Whereas super young guys and draft picks start to, their value starts to go up now. And so he's certainly someone I'm going to look to acquire. Jerome Ford is on this list. That's simply me banking on Kareem Hunt not being there and liking Ford's skill set as and sort of saying since the beginning of the season he's going to be Kareem Hunt for them next year. He's already on a bunch of my rosters, so it's already true that I'll have him a lot in 2023. But he's the guy I'm looking at. Kyron Williams, not a guy that people love, but I think people kind of after the combine just kind of sunk him, and then he was hurt at the beginning of the year, and that's not good for rookies and getting up to speed and that sort of thing. Towards the end of the season, he got some touches. Didn't look too bad. I think he can catch passes. He's got intangibles. He's young. I think the way that running back is deployed now in the NFL, and McVay being smart and back as the coach, and them not having any draft capital really to draft over him much. He's a guy I want, maybe as a depth piece, as a, if I have a start 11 and I need like a third or fourth flex, he's a guy that I'm going to look at some weeks. Evan Ingram makes this list. I'm going to talk a little bit more about him later, but I kind of stashed him a little bit this year as like change of scenery. Peterson's good with tight ends. Let's see what happens, kind of thing. And I wasn't exactly, getting much return on the investment, but then the last month or so, he's just kind of exploded, and I think we're starting to see really what he can look like with a good coach in that offense with Trevor at quarterback. My honorable mention for this award is essentially almost any 2022 rookie tight end. A, because I have a lot of them to begin with, and B, that class ended up, at least for now, a lot better than we thought. January, or like last year, we were told it's McBride, Wiedermeyer, and pray for rain, right? Like, so, and then, now it's become Wiedermeyer is, who knows, right? I think he's on the Colts practice squad, if anywhere. But we had, a good number of tight ends flash well this season, right? We've already talked about Chig, McBride toward the end of the year, obviously Dulcich, Otten, Bellinger, Chig, Jelani, and I'm probably forgetting somebody. These are folks that have shown in a position that doesn't really do much their rookie year. Yep. That they're a lot better as a 2022 class than we thought. So I already have hella 2022 tight ends, and I'm probably going to have a few more. So the winner for guy I'll have a lot of in 2023 is Devonta Slim Reaper Smith. He's the winner. Obviously with AJ Brown there, maybe limits ceiling. He's not really going to be like sort of an alpha one anyway. But if I go into a season with him as my wide receiver 2 on a dynasty team, I'm not thrilled, but I'm not disappointed.
Yeah. No, I like all those, especially hinting on all the 2022 rookie tight ends. Looking back at all my rookie drafts, a lot of the guys like Okonkwo, Dulcich, Otten, I got in the 3rd, 4th, even 5th rounds of some rookie drafts. So, that's why I'm not going out looking for 3rds and 4ths, but I also don't just spit on them and scoff at them. I can't get anything there, especially with tight end premium being more popular just because of the dire need at the position.
So I was hoping Jamie was still in the chat because I know he mentioned Jerome Ford a while back, when we mentioned him first earlier this season. He's chiming in here. That yes, he's a huge Jerome Ford fan. All right, let's get on board. No relation, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought because of Jerome Ford they might ship Kareem Hunt off, but I think he might have just needed one more year. I think next year he'll be ready to slide into that role.
Yeah, he was on the IR a lot this year, but he probably wasn't going to get much run anyway, so it's not not really a concern for me. All right, that's so true. The next 2 categories are a little bit of a twist, something that you probably don't see much of in fantasy football. I will explain the first one here. This is the William Henry Harrison Award. So before you go hit the Google, let me explain it. And as a U.S. history teacher, this is kind of my thing, right? So William Henry Harrison was the 9th president of the United States, who, by the way, shares a birthday with me, February 9th. Okay. He was, if you've ever heard the phrase Tippy Canoe and Tyler too, he was Tippy Canoe. For he got that nickname for being an officer in the Battle of Tippecanoe against Native Americans in the War of 1812. And anyway, gets elected president in the election of 1840. Makes an inaugural address in the rain and the cold, and it's the longest inaugural address probably ever in U.S. history. There are parts of it that he's speaking in, I believe, Latin and/or Greek. Very, wasn't
Trying to
wearing
flex.
wasn't wearing a coat or a hat or anything like that. Anyway, he's president for 30 days and dies of pneumonia. So this William Henry Harrison Award is dedicated to short-lived performances in the fantasy space. Interpret that however you want. It may be a knock on the person, but it is what it is, right? It was a short, we hardly knew ye. So, Josh, kick us off.
Yeah, just to touch on that, just imagine going out there trying to show that you're not tough, you're the leader, and you can speak all these different languages, and you just get sick and die like a month and a half later. It's like, yeah, that was a weird flex. So my first one, flash in the pan, especially in Dynasty for this one, Chris Moore. He had to put together a few pretty good games there for the Texans. Won a lot of people some money on DFS. But he's also 29 years old. He's been in the league a while. Don't expect – he might have a few more games where he bursts like that. But I think it was just a matter of Nico Collins, Brandon Cooks being out, them always being behind.
Yeah.
Next one.
He might even be on the team next year. Mechie, hopefully comes back.
I didn't think about that.
They draft QJ or, Addison or something. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Then next one, we both have this one, Dyno Brown. Really just showed all the upside people talked about in the past in one game. And then after that, he really didn't do anything. I fell for the trap. I played him in DFS at a value after that 1 week, thinking he'd be more involved. Disappeared the rest of the season. Next one, Kenyon Drake. He had a few games where he had upper of over 20 points. And then due to Gus Edwards coming back in a few other situations, he was not relevant again, but had a few almost 30-point games. Next one, Jarrett Stidham. Not buying in. He's 26. We kind of know what he is. He had one good game against the 49ers, a really good defense. But then the very next game, went back out there and looked like most backups do. Didn't look very good. I don't know if Carr stays there, but if they don't, I think they definitely find an upgrade, and I think he's back to being a backup. And the last one, someone I didn't even know went to Notre Dame, and I feel bad. Brock Wright. Basically, it was just touchdown or bust, and his only long play was a broken coverage where he ran 50 yards untouched. Not buying into that. People spent a lot of fab on him when Hawkinson got traded too. My honorable mention, Zach Moss, and this is more long-term. I think we've seen what he is. He got basically booted off the depth chart with the Bills. Just got thrown into a situation without JT on a team that knows they're not going to win. He had some pretty solid games, looked decent, but don't buy into it. If you have him, try and get rid of him for what you can.
I think any run or value he had was based on the presence of Jeff Saturday liking him. You know what I mean? Like, and that's really all it is.
Because I think Deion Jackson's much better, but Zach Moss got much more run than Deion Jackson. So my winner got to be Kenyon Drake. I mean, just the fact that he had a few almost 30-point games, showed his receiving upside and good big playability, but then just disappeared when Dobbins and Gus Edwards got back. And I think he's just destined to be the depth piece at this point. So
yeah. I mean, the way that running back's going to look after the deep free agency class and the pretty good rookie class that we have, Kenyon Drake is one of those guys who I wouldn't be surprised if he's, on a practice squad to start next year. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay. So my nominees are for the William Henry Harrison Award, Caleb Huntley, running back for your Atlanta Falcons. CPAT went down, and he made Tyler Allgeier's life a little hard by taking a lot of touches. Did pretty well, good little running back. But once CPAT was back, and the more Allgeier improved, we didn't really see him at all. I also share Dyno Brown. Dyno Brown, for me, is one of those I can't quit you, my guys. I'm stubbornly going to still have him on a few rosters, right? I mean, if I got the space, I liked the upside coming out of college. He's got Dotson and T-Mac there, so I don't know, but yeah, I love him, and so when someone who I listen to with DFS sort of suggested him in that week against the Titans because I believe Dotson was injured and the Titans get torched on the perimeter. I was like, okay, say less,
Yeah.
don't twist my arm to play Dyami Brown at 3K, right?
I was about to say $3,000 play to sign me up.
And I cashed in, but yeah, I don't know how much noise he's going to be making moving forward. CJ Uzoma for the Jets had a few good weeks here and there, but and flashed, I think, in the playoffs last year for the Bengals, but he's the clear tight end too behind a guy named Tyler Conklin. And they invested some money in CJ, so there's some incentive to but he definitely was the second fiddle in an offense that wasn't so hot. Shane Zylstra, speaking of touchdown or bust Detroit Lions players, I believe he had a 3-touchdown game. I think week 14, 15, something like that.
It was
right?
late, yeah. It was late in the season.
Yeah. Perhaps related to former Carolina Panthers wide receiver Brandon Zylstra. Who knows, right? But I don't necessarily see him as anybody worth rostering. And then I'm going to put also here Gardner Minshew. I think the mustache party's over, yep. He was a person who I saw as a fairly good backup to have, and as a free agent coming into the offseason with the quarterback carousel being what it is, I mean, who knows, right? Like he lands someplace as pushing a young guy, like maybe he's behind Zach Wilson in New York, and then he had that 1 week, filling in for Hurts where he looked pretty good against Dallas, and it was like, okay, Minshew, it's good, and then the next week he didn't look good at all again. He is what he is, right? He's a fun to watch sometimes 6th round pick, who 40% of the way of why we like him is because of like who he is and not
his mustache
and not the player
swag,
he is. Yeah, exactly. Right. My honorable mention is River Craycraft. So River Craycraft and Lawrence Cager were some of my faves this year as far as like looking at a box score and going, who? And River, plays for Miami, and early in the season had a touchdown, and then kind of ghost for a while, and then in week 12, 4 catches for 55 yards, pretty good. And then 2 for 29 in week 13 after not playing for 4 weeks before that. Then didn't play again until week 18 and 1 catch for 5 yards against the Jets. But in weeks 2 and 3, scored a touchdown. And River Craycraft is my honorable mention. Cray Cray, as I like to call him. No, I don't. For the William Henry Harrison Award. The winner for the William Henry Harrison Award is Caleb Huntley, running back, Atlanta Falcons. Caleb is not here. I will be accepting the award on his behalf. I chose him as the winner because in that flash, he was the best, right? And so his disappearance is sort of the biggest descent, if you will. But also as a way to talk about the Atlanta backfield, and because I wanted to with you as an Atlanta fan. So some people suggested that Algiers' increased usage coincided with the Falcons being eliminated from the playoffs, right? Also coincided with Ritter, but coincided with the Falcons being out of the playoffs. And the thinking there was, according to these folks, well, CPAT is older. He's got a year left on his contract. Maybe they're saving his body for next year because this year doesn't matter anymore. And so let's pump the brakes, cool the jets, if you will, on Tyler Algier. Okay. Other folks are saying, actually, CPAT is eminently cuttable. I'm looking here at Spotrac, and if they release or trade him after June 1st, which, who's going to take CPAT in a trade on a conditional 7th or something, right? They could save $4.25 million. I don't know that team is going to have the bodies and depth really to consider cutting him or trading him. So what say you about this Atlanta backfield? Are people too excited about Tyler Algier?
I think they actually might be. I was high on him this year, but I also see a few paths to where he might be a little disappointing next year. I think Arthur Smith wants to have a committee, and I think the only way they let Patterson go is if they go and draft a running back, and I think there's more needs across the board that they need as opposed to going and getting a running back.
Mm-hmm.
I think last year's Cordell Patterson later in the year had a few small injuries, didn't miss significant time, but he also started to wear down. He looked slower, started getting tackled easier. So I think a lot of it's just his age. Partly they're trying to maybe save him for next year, or trying to give Algier a run. I think it's honestly a mixture of all of that.
Mm.
But I do see a way to where Algier has a disappointing year. Like, I think I don't think he's the guy there and going to be the guy there, but I think he's going to be valuable regardless.
True or
false? I think it's always going to be a committee.
Okay, no, that's a good point. I think I agree with you there. True or false? Desmond Ridder will be the Atlanta Falcons starting quarterback in 2024.
I think false. I think they saw enough. I think he might stay on the squad, but I think they either go get, like they did Mariota this year, or they draft one. I don't know how high they'll go up to draft one, but quarterback is one of their top needs, I think. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say false.
Okay. Your version of no, we're on a new category. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So new category is the I never thought I'd say it, but award for things we said this year that we never thought we'd say. Pretty self-explanatory. Just a fun way to end here our award show. Kick us off with the I never thought I'd say it, but award.
I was actually going to see if you take this. I need to turn my camera off for a second.
You
don't mind taking this one first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm still here.
I got you. Okay, so the I never thought I'd say it, but award, right? So this year has been an interesting year, like any other year, with ups and downs. And so for me, there were things I said this year which I didn't think I'd be saying. One of them is, no, I'd need more than a second for Evan Ingram. As he, obviously has grown in this offense, they're designing plays for him. He's got a competent coach who, uses tight ends well and, is linked to Golden Boy Trevor Lawrence. No, I would need more than I'm not saying I would need a first. I'm saying I would need more than a second for Evan Ingram. Nominee number 2, the sentence, I probably don't have enough Wan'Dale Robinson. He's a player who I did not like. When I get that low in the rankings in wide receiver for rookies, I want size. Size to me matters. That's what she said. Take it for whatever it's worth, right? And this is someone who, with the height and weight, I just didn't like. I didn't think it was going to be somebody who was going to be successful in the NFL. He commanded targets. Yeah. Commanded targets, right? Now, was there a dearth of competition there? Sure, but he commanded targets. Is he going to be the one receiver there as far as like the person who gets the most targets there next year? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, the draft and free agency, right? Although free agency wide receiver class isn't deep. I mean, this is a team who is so desperate for wide receiver. They just signed James Washington. They were running Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins out there, who was almost a nominee for the, William Henry Harrison Award. The ACL is a concern, especially next year, the first year back, and especially for a player who, sort of relies on that agility, that cutting with an ACL. But yeah, I probably don't have enough Wan'Dale Robinson. Another, I never thought I'd say it, but I was wrong about Christian Watson. We've talked this year, not that we hated Watson much, but we thought the development would be slow. We thought he was raw and project-y, and that people were overdrafting him as a late first-round rookie pick. He produced a lot quicker than I thought.
Yep.
Now, I'm still not completely sold on him as far as the way some people are viewing him, as this is a alpha ascending to the elite, there's still, things in his game that need a little work. We don't know the future of Aaron Rodgers. He's, I think, a boom bust player. I don't know that not like Gabe Davis boom bust, but his big weeks are going to come from big plays. And I hate to be that phrase, but TD regression, right? I think it's a candidate. I don't think that TD rate is sustainable. The next nominee, I'm close to quitting fantasy football and just doing DFS. I know I've done a few rants on a couple different podcasts about this, but this year was very frustrating in fantasy football. Number one reason it was frustrating for me was trading in dynasty leagues. I could go on forever about it. Basically, go to goingfor2.com, look at my 10 commandments for dynasty trading article, and just see what pisses me off. And just know that this year, like, everybody was violating every one of my commandments. And people just, and people tried to spin it as like, well, the field is sharper now. And nah, man, it's just jabronis. And I was really, because here's the thing, right? I have this like inability to not get frustrated by bullshit, and also I get mad because this is supposed to be my fun, happy place escape. It's supposed to be my hobby. It's not supposed to be the space that makes my brain hurty because people are stupid. And and it did. And so I was like, why would I just save myself the frustration and just go find a different hobby, take the money and time and spend it elsewhere, like DFS, which I was improving at a lot this year. So yeah, I was really close several times this year to quitting fantasy football, and just doing DFS. And I never thought I'd say it, but I'd probably trade the 101 if I wasn't competing in 2023. It's not a hot take, but certainly a one that I think a number of people would disagree with, because it's not like Bijan's not going to be useful in 2024 or 2025 when you're competitive, but you're essentially have the 101, and if you're not competing in 2023, it's hard to describe sometimes, but the 101, the opportunity to pick Bijan is sometimes more valuable than if you picked Bijan and tried to trade him. And you have now this like golden asset that's worth like a ton, and you're not competing next year. Why draft Bijan, have him score points on your roster, or draft Bijan and try to trade him when you can just trade out of the 101 now, take the haul, right, and put it towards your, especially if it's a slightly longer rebuild and you're not in that point where you think you're going to be competing in 2024, like early on. Like I think I would trade the 101 if I wasn't competing in 2023. The honorable mention for, I never thought I'd say it, but Sky Moore is starting to look like a value at this point. With the future of Juju uncertain, with Mecole Hardman likely gone, with Kadarius Toney, who flashed, sort of being, the main competition at this point, and with how much he's slipped in rankings and, is now approaching a buy low, he's starting to look like a value. And that's somebody who I was, saying people were getting drunk on landing spot because he went to Kansas City, and I was trading out of that spot where, people were drafting Sky Moore. So the winner for, I never thought I'd say it, but I wanted to do I'll leave fantasy football and just do, but I wanted to kind of end on a happy note. So the winner is, I need more than a second, for Evan Ingram. So that is the winner for, I never thought I'd say it, but this is a person who for me was like a poster boy of like, athletic tight end who becomes disappointing, and it was kind of like a joke, and like Giants fans, like he was the butt of Giants fans' jokes. But he also suffered from being, on the Giants and having Jason Garrett, as an OC. So, and here we are. I need more than a second for him.
I No, I really like that one. I really like Evan Ingram. I've always liked him. I just needed to see what he could do this year before I really dove in. But yeah, I like all of those a lot. Speaking of the 101 real quick, I mean, if you trade out of that, you can get the 106 and another first and a couple of other picks, even maybe some players for that 101. So I don't see why you wouldn't do it if you're not planning on winning soon. I'm trying to do it in a rebuild right now, and it's very hard.
Yeah,
the price is very high.
And Jamie asked us, what would I want in return for Bijan? Like, you know, there are some people who go by the rule that no player is worth 3 firsts, and they also go by a rule that, you know, once you get to 3 firsts, like it's not worth it to trade for a person. You know, I don't know if there's anybody who's sort of in that neighborhood, in that ballpark. It's him, but you're probably not getting that. But I will say there was one league that I was kind of poking around and kicking the tires on the 101, and the ask was ridiculous. Just insultingly ridiculous. Like, take a screenshot and show your friend this ridiculous
roast this person on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't. I try not to do that, but you know, I send it to my friends and I say, this is look at this. This is ridiculous, right? And fast forward, the person wound up trading the 101 today for like a lot less than they were asking from me. So
yeah,
it was 103, 203, and James Cook.
If I really needed Bijan, I might do that.
Oh yeah, you do it if you're buying the 101, but the person sold the 101 for a song compared to what they were asking of me. They wanted like JT, my firstborn, you know, like
your dog,
deed to my condo. Like it was yeah, you know. So realistically, yeah, I'd want at least 123 first, especially if it was past 10. It was past like 106. I'd want 2. I'd want like a young, useful like wide receiver 2 type, you know, on top of that, and then maybe something else. Like that's kind of like the core of what I'm thinking to start with. You know, I don't know. That's just kind of off the top of my head, but yeah, that's. I mean, you know, you're trading the opportunity for the best running back prospect since Saquon and CMC, and. And especially in a world where the NFL isn't drafting or deploying running back like they used to, this person is a huge outlier, right? And that so trading the opportunity to draft this person is a big deal, and you better get more than 103 James Cook and the 203. But
yeah,
all right, off to you for the nominees for I Never Thought I'd Say It But award.
All right, I never thought I'd have to say this, but I was right to fade Sky Moore this season. Like we briefly talked about, I'll keep it short. I wasn't in on him, but I also saw the potential with a few injuries, him replacing Mecole. He might actually be really good this year. But I was actually right. Next one, can't believe I'd say it, but Bryce Perkins or Trace McSorley in my Superflex spot. That's just me saying the quarterback position got really, really ugly this year, especially if you play in deep leagues with people. Like, there's no backup quarterbacks on the wire. You basically are racing to the wire to spend your fab on Trace McSorley just so you can fill someone in that spot. So
David
started
this year, right? Like,
I actually started Bryce Perkins in a league. Next one, I never thought I'd say it. I wonder where Lamar will play next year. I thought he was going to play with the Ravens for a long time. It's looking like that's probably not going to happen. Might be good for him if they keep Greg Roman, because I think he's kind of, not doing the best job of doing their weapons, not doing a good job drafting receivers for him. The next one, any chance I get the shit on Gabe Davis, I will. I can't believe to say it, but Gabe Davis still sucks. Like, he has his games, but he also, on much less targets, almost like Isaiah McKenzie almost had just as many receptions as Gabe Davis. He's so boomer bust. He drops open touchdowns. I don't hate him as a person, but I hate the hype he gets. I hate how high people are on him, thinking he's a godsend just because he plays in Buffalo. He's not. He's wide receiver 3-4 at best. Last one, Garrett Wilson is far and away the number 1 receiver in all of New York and the 23 class. I had him pretty high. I had him 5th, but I had to move him above Olave, who I love. He's just as good at route running as Olave, in my opinion, and probably a little bit better in space.
So do
I
you mean the
moved him ahead of
22
him.
class then, or?
Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, and the 22. Yeah, I just put 23 because that's what I've been doing, starting my rookie research. Yeah, better than the 22 class. He's better than Drake London, better than Olave. I think he's got the most upside out of all of them, too. Yeah, my honorable mention, I saw this. It made me start laughing because I've done this a few times this year. My honorable mention is Brian's. I'm close to quitting fantasy and just doing DFS. I actually, like you have, I hit a pretty good run towards the year, got better as the season went on, and it's fun to win money.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. That's the one. My winner, Garrett Wilson. Dude's a beast. I love him as a player. He's going to be really good. He's going to be a top wide receiver 1 moving forward in Dynasty. So
I think I've already got him up at 7 Dynasty wide receivers.
Yeah, he's
like,
well up there.
time is now. It's his world, and we're living in it.
Yep.
I think I have him closer to Olave than some people do, though. I think some people are making the case that there's a bigger separation between the two. I don't see it that way. I think one thing you can say in Wilson's column is that he sort of improved as the year went on with mediocre quarterback play, whereas Olave's production kind of stagnated with his quarterback play was always mediocre. But if you remember, like early in the year, it was like, look at all these air yards Olave's get, and it's like, look at the last few weeks of the year.
It was a little sobering because Olave was my guy. I went out on a limb saying he was going to be the best receiver this year. Yeah, he's definitely up there, and he should be up there more than he is for offensive rookie of the year.
I remember, toward the end of the season doing DFS and looking at like the team implied totals for Saints games, and I was like, what's happened to this team? That Kamara, Olave,
I'm telling it. And I'm not complaining because I hate the Saints, but Dennis Allen, play Jameis Winston. Don't have Andy Dalton as your quarterback. You're killing everyone's value.
One guy we didn't mention that I'm probably going to have a lot of in 23. I think he's probably a little overvalued at this point, but I kind of already have a few shares. Juwan Johnson.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, even Shaheed we talked about with Jameis chunking in the ball. I don't know what they're doing. So.
We don't know. I hope Jameis is there because he's better than what they have. But
yeah,
who knows at this point, right? Back to the Swift talk with Kyle here. Yeah, who thought we'd be saying that Jamal Williams outscored him? Yeah, that was weird this year. One of my bold predictions, quote unquote, for 2022 was that Swift would be a top 3 PPR running back. And I think it'd be easy for me to cop out and hide behind the time missed for injury. Which is valid, but it just based on when he was healthy, what was happening, it wouldn't have, that prediction would not have come true.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They just clearly, when they got close to the goal line, took him out and put in Jamal Williams. So,
well, that concludes our Dynos. Next year maybe a little bit more production value, some graphics, some tuxedo T-shirts, some fake champagne, sparkling cider, or something like that. And we'll do it again. So moving ahead, we're gonna have some fun this off season. We're gonna stick to our lists of 5, but we're gonna do off season content that way. So, for example, when we get into rookie talk, which is going to be so much fun, we might do an episode like 5 rookies to avoid, or 5 intriguing rookies, or our top 5 rookie tight ends, or something like that. Yeah. So we're still gonna do the typical off-season content you'd expect, just still in list form. And we'll come up with trade targets, free agency buzz. Free agency is going to be really fun this year with the running back. So, stick with us. We'll be here mostly weekly. We'll take weeks off here and there as necessary. But we're gonna stay weekly for the most part in this off season, and I hope everyone stays with us for the ride. It's been a lot of fun this year. So please subscribe, rate, and review to the Going for Two live podcast feed that you're listening to on audio. If you're watching us here on YouTube live or otherwise, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and even turn on those darn notifications so you know when the videos are coming. Time for plugs. Josh, where can we find you and your work?
Yeah, you can find myself on Twitter at Rotonaut, Rotonaut. You can find, I'm going to start actually writing articles again. I took a little break for my mental health over the season, but you can find all my off-season work at goingfor2.com. And I just want to say this has been my first year doing this podcast stuff and actually diving full into Dynasty. I've had a lot of fun, learned a lot, and I hope everybody that watches has too.
Right on. Really appreciate you. It was fun having this year. Yeah. I'm glad it worked out. So you can find me on Twitter at ffjunkie_. You can find Dynasty rankings at goingfor2.com, as well as any articles that I do. I too will be increasing in the off season. I just will have more time and mental space to be doing it. So we already have our off season content spreadsheet up and who's going to write what. And so, yeah, we're going to give you everything that you need. Which reminds me, the Going for Two family of podcasts. Some of them are going to be a little less frequent in the off season, but we still have a full stable of podcasts for you to enjoy. So please make sure you're checking out the YouTube channel and the podcast feed. If you go to goingfor2.com and read the great articles, you'll also see in the bottom right a little purple thingy to click to the Discord. It's free and it's on and popping. It's a lot of fun. We're going to be bringing on more writers too. I'm told, and expand our content. So, just all sorts of great things going for two, kind of your one-stop shopping for your fantasy needs. So, any last words, Josh, besides go Irish?
You beat me to it. Yeah, go Irish. That's it.
Michael Mayer. Loving it.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy. I cannot wait for him to be a stud.
Yeah. All right, folks, that's a wrap. Thanks for being with us. We will see you next week. Not sure what the topic's going to be just yet, but we'll figure it out in the Twitter DMs and we'll have something for you. Take care, folks.